Welcome everyone to another action figure review, as I have the Bandai Tomorrow's Nations SH Figuarts, the Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon 2-pack from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So it's a new release, it's the first to be given to us for Phase 5. Of course they're not done with Phase 4 yet, there's still the Spider-Man No Way Home figures, and I'm sure there's still more characters to be released. But they do want to move along with the timeline of the films. Having of course released this one, and they've got the Ant-Man version to be released very soon from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And for Phase 4 it kind of came and went very quickly. They managed to do one character from each of the movies apart from Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and they did some for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but they kind of just skipped on all the TV shows. So I believe it's going to be kind of the same for Phase 5. They're probably just going to do one or two characters from the movies and then skip the TV shows. No surprises, they've released Star-Lord and Rocket as their first for this line, because the two main characters, and they've done them before for Guardians 2 as well as the Infinity War line figures. And this is a packaging that's going to be very similar to what they're wearing, the new jumpsuit of course in the film. So I do like it, they're going with the theme. And then we have the logos and then the titles on the side with a shot of the two characters. And then at the front, the usual logos and stickers. A nice real kind of print of the two characters as well. And then on the other side, wraps all the way around with the logos. And then at the back we have the figure in different poses. And then at the top we have another shot of the Guardians logo. And at the bottom we have more information. So inside we have a nice background, and then we also have the instruction manual to show you how to put on the accessories. And here is the Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon inside its packaging. So here is the first look at the Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon figures out of its packaging, and as you can see, both of them looking good together in the new jumpsuit. And as a pair, I think this would make a great display. Of course, when you do think of Guardians 3 and them in the jumpsuits, you do want the rest of the members. But I wouldn't have my high hopes on Tomorrow's Nations giving us any more. Just don't think they'll invest in making all the characters. So your best bet is probably to go for the Hasbro Marvel Legends as well. For me personally, I don't have to get the whole team. Sometimes I think one or two characters from a certain film or series is good enough. And I think these two will certainly represent the Guardians 3 really well in my display. And I think in terms of the way it's been built and of course the sculpt, you're always going to get very good quality figures from SHF. So maybe you want to get Star-Lord from Tomorrow's Nations, and then maybe get Hasbro, the Nebula one. So you can kind of mix and match if you want, and that's the part of the fun of, I guess, collecting. So looking at the figures, I'm going to focus on them kind of individually, because it can kind of get confusing if I do talk about both of them in one kind of clip. So let's first focus on Star-Lord. So Peter Quill, of course, we're familiar with him in terms of the SHF line. Seen him before. This is definitely a different sculpt in terms of the head sculpt. I think it's actually pretty good in some angles, maybe not so like this side, but then on the other side I think it's got it pretty accurate to the source, so I do like it. And one thing I do notice as well is the build of the figure. It actually looks very chunky. I know he's meant to be quite muscular, but it actually seems a lot bigger than your standard SHF. I'm not sure if they've kind of changed up the proportions, or maybe in his jumpsuit he's meant to be bigger. Let me quickly bring in the Infinity War 1 version, and you can see that the new one towers over the previous one. I'm not sure why they've decided to make it a lot bigger, or has he actually grown? So yeah, I did actually find that odd. I mean, I don't mind, but I guess it might not scale that well with the rest of your characters. This might actually work if you scale it with the Hasbro Marvel Legends now that is slightly bigger. So yeah, that's just one thing I noticed right out of the box, but it does feel quite sturdy, pretty solid piece as well. And then if we take a closer look at the face sculpt once again, you can see it's all changed up. He has a lot more beard and the hair is more curled up. I would say this face sculpt is actually pretty good. It's not that bad actually. He looks a lot different to the Infinity War one, which I thought was pretty good as well. But then you can argue that this one might even be better. I don't know, I just think it does look like what we see in the film, which is pretty good. So yeah, I would say that this one is certainly a decent figure to have. As for Rocket Raccoon, I think this sculpt is also pretty nailed on to the source, and he is quite small, which is kind of expected. I'm not sure if he's bigger than the previous ones. Let me quickly bring in the Infinity War version, and it looks as though they have actually upscaled some of the characters, and I'm not sure if it's because it's just the way they wanted to do it or it's because he's wearing the jumpsuit, but for sure they have made these figures slightly bigger, and I'm not too sure on the exact reasons, but it might work with your Hasbro Marvel Legends, but it might not work with the current SHF. It depends on how accurate you want it in terms of the scale. But in terms of the sculpts, I would say that this is again pretty spot on. They've nailed the look once again. Look at the details. It does actually look like it's jumped straight from the movie. And then you can see the rest of the kind of jumpsuit. The tail is actually a separate piece that you have to connect on when you get out of the box. So yeah, so far I'm impressed in terms of the first look of both of these characters. I think they do look pretty solid in their jumpsuits. So now let's test out the articulation, starting off with the Star-Lord figure. So for the head sculpt, it can go side to side, no problem. And it can go round and round if you want. And it can tilt left and right. Backwards slightly, not so much. There is a collar kind of in the way, but downwards no problem. And then for the arms, they stretch side to side, pretty smooth there. And then go forwards and backwards and upwards, downwards as well, and then outwards this much, and then inwards slightly. Then for the arms, there's rotation on the biceps. There's also a elbow bend. And then for the hands, of course, there's rotation and there's also a slight hinge. And now for the body. So I noticed for his jumpsuit, it's kind of just one piece that has a flap from the top to the bottom. So there may be some limitations. So for the upper torso, it doesn't move much side to side. Just don't force it too much, you don't want to break any bits. But it can tilt left and right if you want. And then for the waist, in fact, it has no problems there. It can turn side to side and then left and right as well. And then there's movement on the belt. And then for the legs, they stretch this much. And then they kick forwards, backwards. There's rotation on the legs as well, no problems there. And then a full knee bend. There's a rotation on the thighs as well. There's no turn on the boots, but in terms of his leg, or his foot should I say, they turn side to side. And then of course there's a toe hinge. So articulation for Star-Lord is standard. And then for Rocket one, of course left and right, and then side to side, and then it can go upwards slightly, downwards a lot. Full rotation of the head if you want. And then for the arms, you can see they stretch. And for such a small figure, this is actually pretty good articulation, forwards, backwards. There is a rotation on the arms as well, but there is no arm bend, I believe. And then there's rotation on the hands, but there is no hinge. And then for the body, the upper torso can turn side to side, and then left and right. For the waist, there is no movement at all, so there's no ab crunch. And then for the tail, because it's a separate piece, there is rotation. And then for the legs, they go wide this much, and then forwards and backwards like this. And I noticed there's no knee bend either for this, but for the Infinity War one, they actually did do it. I guess it is a separate figure, so it does cost a lot more. But for this one, there's not much, and there's no rotation on the legs, so the legs are kind of like statues. So I guess both of the articulation is okay, pretty standard, some limitations here and there. So now we can move on with the accessories. So now let's take a look at the accessories, starting off for Star-Lord. So we're going to take a look at the alternative hands. So out of the packaging, of course, it does include these closed fists. So it also includes a set of open palms for the relaxed look. And then we also get a set of grapple hands for the guns. And another set of grapple hands, which is the trigger fingers, for another set of guns. And here is the look with the first set of guns. And here is a look with the second set of guns. And for the second set of guns, you can hang them onto the sides. As for Rocket Raccoon, so out of the packaging, it does include a set of open palms. And it includes one set of alternative hands, which is the ones holding onto the guns. So both of these figures do not include any alternative head sculpts. So now for the size comparison, starting off with its previous SH Figuarts representations with the Infinity War Star-Lord as well as the Infinity War Rocket Raccoon. Here they are next to the SH Figuarts Infinity War Nebula as well as the Infinity War Gamora. And here they are next to the Medicom Mafex Infinity War Doctor Strange and the Medicom Mafex Endgame 4. And here they are next to the Hasbro Basic Infinity War Groot as well as the Hasbro Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 Rocket Raccoon. And finally, here it is next to the Hasbro Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Drax as well as the Hasbro Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 Mantis. So now for my final thoughts on the SH Figuarts Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 Star-Lord and Rocket Raccoon. Both look great in their new costumes, the accuracy is there with the face sculpts, the build is good, I like the proportions, and we also get the weapons. However, I think they both lack the extra head sculpt just to make it more of a battle look. For Peter Quill, they could have even added the frozen face, and especially for Rocket, I feel it's a bit bland. Maybe add an aggressive face like we saw in the Infinity War version. But I do get this is not the solo figure, as this feels more like a Star-Lord one plus the Rocket Raccoon as an accessory. And I say that because Rocket also has very limited articulation, especially on the legs. So I can see they haven't put their best efforts in this, although they should, regardless if it's a 2-pack. Other than that, I don't think you can really ask for more. Maybe some effects for the guns just to make you want to buy it, even if you have the previous ones in the Infinity War line. Otherwise, the hype isn't really there. My overall score is going to be a 7 out of 10. These are decent to start off phase 5, but I don't see them doing any more characters, so I guess we move forward to the next release, which is Ant-Man. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe, and of course stay tuned to more videos related to the SH Figuarts. In the meantime, check out the links below for more figure reviews. Thanks for watching.